Hello there, Reject Nation. I'm Greg Alba.
I'm John Humphrey.
We're going to talk about some Star Trek here. Season 2, Episode 6 review of the Doomsday Machine. One of our top award tiers. Whatever video request you must do. This one comes from David Gandy today. He said, would you guys be interested in reviewing an episode of Star Trek, the original series, for the September video request? He actually changed it per our request. Now we're doing it for October. You mentioned you'd like to have a better knowledge of Star Trek, so here's a chance. I know this won't get many views. We don't care about views.
No.
Obviously. Unless this takes off the Star Trek community, it won't. The episode I have in mind is the Doomsday Machine. You can comment on anything about the episode, but what I have in mind is touch on the quality of the 60s episodic TV in general, the writing, and the allusions to the Cold War. William Wyndham's guest star performance as Commodore Decker, and the director's specific job with the episode. So yeah, we watched this on Amazon Prime. The first 3 seasons of Star Trek are available there to watch, so that's just a good tidbit for you to latch onto. So in this episode, here's the plot description on Amazon. Get ready for it. A machine that destroys planets threatens the Enterprise.
Which is not a planet, so it's even worse for them.
Even worse for them, man.
Yeah.
They intercept a ship that is just orbiting in space. The only person alive is Commodore Decker. Whole crew's been wiped out. He's the last man standing. So in this series of events, they do their teleportation thing, beam onto that ship. They're like, hey, Commodore Decker, you're gonna stay at the Enterprise right now. Spock's in command right there. We're gonna figure out what to do with this ship. Meanwhile, this Doomsday Machine is kind of like a robot alien. It sucks you up.
It's just a machine that's designed to suck in planets and destroy them and use that for fuel, and it seems to have no other use than to just destroy. And it can't be stopped because no one mans it, and it's completely shielded from the outside.
It's kind of like that machine that is used in the Star Trek reboot that Eric Bana is using, combined with the Starkiller base that is introduced in The Force Awakens. A little bit of both combined into one.
Slicing planets apart.
I've never seen any of the Star Trek episodes.
Not fully.
I've seen clips, you know, who hasn't at this point? Several of the movies, even the ones with James T. Kirk and Enterprise.
Wrath of Khan.
So this was pretty interesting to see how gripping it would be, and I found this to be a rather cinematic episode. It's very well composed. It's of course colorful, as you'd expect with a Star Trek show. What I found engaging about it was when it starts off, it starts talking a lot about, you know, its technical jargon, Star Trek sci-fi.
Yeah, you're figuring out what the monster of the week is or what the story of the week's gonna be for a lot of the first act.
Yeah, and there's a lot of terminology being thrown around. And as it progressed, though, you start seeing how this is really affecting the characters. We'll talk about the things you want us to talk about first, David. This guest starring performance from William Wyndham, what an interesting name, William Wyndham, as Commodore Decker, I thought was great because he's a guy who is desperate for a chance at redemption because he feels responsible for the crew dying, even though this was pretty much not his fault. Being someone who is in charge of a ship, you naturally feel like these are my people and it's my responsibility to keep them alive. Because of that, in the episode, he takes over the Enterprise at one point. It's the thing that I know Spock would always be obedient to, which is rules, man.
Yeah.
Spock is a rule follower.
Got him in the logic.
So he takes over the Enterprise for a bit and he's like just attacking this Doomsday Machine, and everyone knows this ain't gonna pan out well. Why would this work out for anyone? And what was great about this character was you could feel that desperation in his performance the entire time. Like, even when he seemed irrational, even when you weren't logically agreeing with his decision making, I was always on the spectrum of, I could tell this guy is desperate to get a chance of redemption. And that knowledge isn't laid out till towards the end of the episode when he sacrifices himself to try to give them a shot when he steals one of those like emergency ships and drives it in. I thought that was a very layered performance and a cool nugget of detail of what it must be like to be commander of a Starfleet ship.
Yeah, I mean, I liked his performance a lot. One of the first things that struck me about the episode was that they held so much in his face, and when he's breaking down about the death of his crew and what he had to do and the fact that he made a call that a lot of captains would make and it went bad, you know, I bought that grief a lot, and I thought he gave a lot of flavor to his performance because there are hints at that redemptive side, but there are also hints at madness and mania. I thought of space dementia while we were watching this partly too, because he teeters really nicely, I think, between villain and kind of protagonist, because when he takes command of this Starship Enterprise, like, he's kind of a scary villainous character at that point because he is so determined determined on this mission. It's almost like Moby Dick. He's just like driven to destroy this thing. There were times in the kind of second act of the episode where I would get a little pulled out simply because they fired on that thing so many times and he just never ever even acknowledged that this is just not working, you know? Yeah. So at that point I did kind of get frustrated by that, but overall I thought his performance was really terrific, and I loved that in a show that has so many iconic actors and such an iconic ensemble, there was this other guy who was a guest actor for the episode who leaves a big impression and who makes the world feel bigger because he's a part of Starfleet. They have to kind of war with their politics, you know, to get through this.
I like the structure of this episode a lot because you have Kirk, you know, he's the commander of the Enterprise, and then he's not even on the Enterprise for 95% of the episode. He's on this other ship trying to get it for minimal repairs with Scotty, so that way they could just get it moving, because the original plan was just to tow it. And what was great about it was you do get a really good specific look on dynamics and relations with all the crew members and which position better suits everyone and who to entrust. Like when Spock is in charge of the ship, what I thought was cool was they never took a break to do like expositional, emotional moments. It was always about the situation at hand, this immediate situation, yet you would see the emotions come out of the characters and how they're reacting to the situation. Like when Commodore Decker takes over the ship, Bones, it won't have it. Bones is like,
I'll declare him crazy on the spot.
Crazy right here. Yeah. But because of the way Spock's mind operates, being a Vulcan,
that's not going to fly.
That's logical and obedient to rules. Yeah, exactly.
I really appreciated through this episode also just the ensemble of that, because it's cool to see Spock have to war back and forth with him logically. And this episode I thought did a nice job turning things into contextual thrills or contextual tension, because a lot of this episode is just them warring back and forth ideologically, figuring out whether or not to fight, you know?
Yeah.
And there's so much that's played in the proximity of time. You've got people working on the holodeck, you've got people working on, you know, the phasers.
But that's why I thought the structure was cool, is because putting Kirk away really gives you a chance to see what the rest of the crew is really like without their leader there, and how they entrust one another. So when you're watching how they're handling things and they can't get in touch with Kirk, I love the moment when Kirk gets on whatever their intercoms are, their space walkie-talkies, and is like, you're the maniac who's going to get the Enterprise killed, and he's like, put Spock on. Showing how integral it is that the right team is there, that it goes beyond regulations, it goes beyond positions of command, that it's really about who the characters are and who the people are and their relationships, because that's when you know who to trust in this situation of crises. Yet, by the end of this episode, you still reaffirm who your star of the show is, who your leader is, when Kirk is able to save the day with a calculated risk decision of blowing up the ship he's on inside of what I can only describe as the Eye of Sauron. Blowing up the ship in there. Assuming for the most of the episode, the Enterprise gang was the one handling it, but without Kirk. And then by the end of it, it's Kirk's ultimate leadership decision to bring it back full circle to, no, this is why he's captain. This is why he's the leader. Because of this decision making. And I love that when he comes back onto the Enterprise, that high stakes scenario of 3, 2, 1, it's going to blow up. We got to teleport him back onto the Enterprise. I love the response of how no one's like, you did it, Captain. Spock just saying, welcome back aboard, is just perfect, showing that this is just what they expect out of Captain Kirk. They wouldn't expect anything less out of this guy to put his life on the line to that degree.
That speaks to that little line of dialogue, I think. You worry about your miracles, I'll worry about mine. You get that sense that they are this extraordinary team who's used to, you know, their effectiveness together. But what I appreciated, I guess, a lot about what this episode did in isolating Kirk from the rest of the team and all that. You see a lot of modern movies of a lot of things like this that have like a crew and a badass leader. I really felt that this crew could take care of themselves with him stranded, and I thought that he demonstrated also amount of resourcefulness. It's like, I feel like when they rebooted Star Trek into the new movies, there's that aspect where Kirk is that rebellious badass. And not that Decker represents that really, but I thought in this episode, I thought you had a nice clash of different kinds of leadership. I'm just going to take control. I know what to do. Follow my lead, and we're just going to shoot this thing. And I think that is favored a lot in stories like this, especially now. And I thought it was a nice contrast with Kirk, because you see that Kirk is willing to take those rash decisions that do go beyond protocols and ranks and whatnot when it's necessary. But he's also very much trusting of his team, of the advice of others. And the interesting thing about this episode is that the solution wouldn't have happened if this hadn't happened. It's like if Decker hadn't gotten desperate, ran off and grabbed that little pod and flown into it, I don't necessarily think that would have happened, and they probably would have had the thing eat Rigel and go back to Starfleet, and they would have lost even more lives. And so in that moment too, there's that beautiful extra redemption of, you have that gray area that this guy's kind of mad now, he's kind of crazy, but Kirk even says we're going to make his death mean something. And yeah, I don't know, I just thought this episode had a lot of dramatic layers that were nice. And as far as evil machines go, it's a funny design because I think it's like super simplistic. It looks like a cornucopia or like a worm or something, and yet it was oddly effective somehow.
Yeah. I mean, I think on its close-up shots too. I was most impressed with that.
I mean, you see that big gaping
Nowadays
mouth.
it's kind of in reverse. When you're further away, the better it looks. Now the closer you are, it looks weirder, but with this it was in reverse. They had this like really epic shot at the end when Kirk is putting the ship inside before they can successfully teleport him out, and it's like this close-up on the flames inside of it, which I thought was beautiful.
Yeah.
And as far as the allusions to the Cold War, they were right on the nose. I don't know if those were just... I was like, okay, what subtle hints am I looking for here? Oh, no, they're pretty direct about it. Talking about these sort of doomsday destructions and the irony of having to use some type of H-bomb in and of itself within the ship that Kirk used to destroy another massive destructive thing, which I thought was an interesting note. I just picked up on that.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of took that as the fallout from these arms races, and yeah, the idea that he touches on is saying that blowing this up this way and kind of using a nuke to nuke another nuke, basically, it's the first time we've used this for something constructive. And yeah, they touch on that idea of we have these weapons that we've built, that we've threatened each other with, that could just obliterate both of us at the same time, In terms of the Cold War, I'm not like an expert on it, but I could definitely feel those sorts of tensions. That threat of the unknown and the just super devastating, destructive force, And what happens if we wipe ourselves out and this thing is still just out there doing its thing, and the endless fallout that could happen from that, because it's just going to keep spreading and eating people.
And I thought in terms of full-on writing, films and TV shows from like 70s and before were pretty consistent in making wonderful debate scenes. Of really arguing both sides to a debacle. How do we solve this? Or what's wrong with this? Letting the emotions rise from trying to make a decision. And I thought that was cool that was pretty much most of this episode.
Yeah, and it's two very different ideologies,
Yeah. Well, David, thanks for introducing us to our very first Star Trek episode. We will never watch another Star Trek episode again. This is all I needed to see. But I will watch that Quentin Tarantino Star Trek movie, because that's when I know Star Trek will be the absolute best it could ever be.
Definitely. People getting blown out of doorways with big exploding, gushing blood.
Yeah.
Those red shirts, man.
Live long and let the Force be with you. Hey, guys, what's your favorite episode of Star Trek? Comment below. Or favorite movie from Star Trek. Or your favorite Battlefield Earth movie.
Star Trek. Oh.
Subscribe to The Real Rejects. Click that notification bell. Thank you, David, again. I hope the martial arts is treating you well. I appreciate all the advice on all the enemas. I've been talking with John lately about getting a hydrocolonic cleanse. I like your enema advice a lot. And, hey, you just keep on rocking, Gandhi. You keep on rocking. I'll see you in the Patreon messages. You sexy bastard, you.